Hey, this is Joel Rohde. Today is October 9th, and it would be the 82nd birthday of John Lennon if he was still alive. I've had some interviews where I talked about John Lennon with some of the guests on the show, and I figured I'd take some of those excerpts and share them with you guys today. The first clip features John Mahon, who's been with Elton John since 1997, and my buddy Peter Finestone. Peter Finestone was with Bad Religion for many years. He doesn't talk much in the clip. What's going on before the clip starts is I played a little game with John, which is how well do you know your boss? And one of the questions was about John Lennon, and he told us this great story. So here it is. I'm going to share it with you guys. Okay, in 1974, Elton coaxed what artist to come up on the stage with him to perform? It would be the last time he performed in public.
John Lennon.
That's right. That's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah. And you know how he did that? You know the story behind how he got
let's hear it. Let's hear it.
John Lennon was working on his solo record, and he was working on the song Whatever Gets You Through the Night. Whatever gets you through the night. All right. All right. And he asked Elton to play piano on it. He may have sang on it too, but Elton was playing piano on that song. I mean, he's played on a lot of records with people. He was a pretty big session player, but now he's already a huge pop star. So he asked Elton to play on the record, and they had such a great time that Elton said, "I'll play on this song," because they would fuck with each other all the time, right? They became such great friends, and he said, "I'll play on this song, but if it goes to number one, you have to promise that when I play in New York City," because he lived there, "you'll come down to the garden and sit in with us." And Lennon goes, "This song will never make it to fucking number one. Of course, you're on, Sure shit, man. Song goes to number one. So this is good. This is a crazy story, right? John Lennon was broken up with Yoko at the time. And he was seeing somebody or something like that. I mean, he was seeing another girl, right? He's broken up with Yoko. So Lennon shows up. He comes down to Madison Square Garden. And Elton tells this. Well, Davey and Elton tell this story because, Nigel was. They said that backstage, John Lennon was so nervous that he had to throw up before the show.
No kidding.
Yeah. Wow. He was so nervous. He wanted to know if there was any pot he could smoke. And those guys really didn't, they said, "Well, I'm sure we could come up with a doob or something."
When was the last time he had played live? Do you think it was just because he was with Elton, or?
The last time he played live was with the Beatles.
Oh, so it was, oh, wow.
Yeah, that was the last time that was the last time anyone had actually seen John Lennon on a stage, was the last gig he did with the Beatles, right? So on that rooftop thing, I think. Right. So he's backstage. He has to puke in a bucket. He's so nervous. He has to give Davey his guitar to tune it because his hands are shaking, right? So he barely can get his shit together. But who's backstage hanging out? Yoko. So basically, Elton says, John Lennon walks out on stage. Elton introduces him. "We have a special guest for you tonight, John Lennon." And he said he walked out on stage and he said, "I'll kid you not, there was a literal 10-minute standing ovation." Now you can put your timer on for 10 minutes, right?
A long time.
And I would have thought, okay, bullshit, he's yanking my chain or he's making up. But then I hear the same story from Davey in another conversation. I hear the same story from Nigel. Ray Cooper will tell you the same story. Elton tells you the same story. People that were at the show, 10-minute ovation. It just went on and on and on. And then it would lull, and then it would start again. And then he said it was the craziest thing he's ever seen. And then they did, and then John Lennon goes backstage, runs into Yoko. They get back together again. They have a baby.
Wow.
Poor May.
Yeah. They get back together, they get married, they have a baby, and Elton becomes the godfather of the baby.
Oh,
wow.
Wow, that's beautiful.
What a night.
The second clip is short, but it's fun. It features Felix Cavaliere from the Young Rascals. You might know a few of his songs if you don't know the band. The second guest is Alan Hewitt. Alan plays with the Moody Blues.
I'll tell you another one.
There we go.
Years later, I was doing a show. I was in England. I was doing a show, and I heard that John Lennon and Yoko Ono were going to be, they're going to be on, this is going to be cool. They were going to work on the same stage with John. They came out in a friggin' bag. They were in a bag the whole time, like a knapsack. Okay. That's pretty strange. Yeah.
Third clip. This one's really cool. I liked May Pang a lot. May Pang was John Lennon's girlfriend during his crazy summer when he left Yoko Ono for a little bit. The other guest is Ruth McCartney, who is Paul McCartney's stepsister. They were both very lovely ladies. It's a fun clip, and she tells the other side of the story because she was at that Madison Square Garden show. I didn't know I'd be bringing her on the podcast because the one actually before was my very first episode I ever did with John Mahon and Peter. So she and Ruth came pretty shortly thereafter, and I got to hear some stuff. Now, I know what you're going to say. How come I didn't ask if she went home with him or if John had gone home with Yoko Ono? To be upfront, I was told not to bring up Yoko Ono in the interview, which is why I didn't ask that question. So John Mahon is my friend, and John had been with Elton John forever. So he was saying that the setup was that if Elton John did this song with John Lennon, that if the song went to number one, John Lennon would then perform live with him, which he had not done since performing with the Beatles. And when he performed live, he was so nervous about doing so that he was vomiting behind the stage. He was just so, but he had made the deal. And so he went out and he did a song, or I don't know how many songs he did with them.
We did 3 songs.
3 songs. And so you were there for it all. Was he that nervous, or was it just before the incident, or was it an all day thing? Or?
Well, it wasn't. It was Thanksgiving Day, actually, right? So back in 1974, we had gone to Thanksgiving dinner over at I think it was Seymour Stein's house, and then we, everybody, Elton, the boys, everybody, we were there, and then we all went home. And John is like pacing, he's getting nervous and getting sick, and people don't realize he was still nervous about that. And we're backstage. When we finally get to the backstage, he's just, again, he's pacing, smoking a cigarette. He was like, oh my God, what am I doing? And besides, this was not his band, but they learned every little bit. And we went up to what was it, Boston, to see how the show would go, how Elton would sing and what the songs and how everybody sounded. And we went up there and we watched the show at the Boston Gardens, which was I think it was like a few days or a week before the garden show. And then we only had one rehearsal, and they chose the song. So we sang Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, which was the song that was put on Elton's album, that we went out to Caribou to, so that John could sing background on that one. And then afterwards, we did Whatever Gets You Through the Night, which was John's single that became number 1. And then they did, what was it? When was it, 17? Yes, just 17, right. Mm-hmm. And John chose that. He goes, I never sang it. It was a Paul song. He goes, and so they did that song at the end. So those were the 3 songs they chose. And he would, in fact, at the end of the set, he'd said, okay, I'm done now. Basically, he said, I'm paraphrasing, he goes, basically done now, I could go home and be sick. So, he was just getting over it,
If any of you guys were at the Madison Square Garden show, put it in the comments. Tell us about your day. Or if you just have any good John Lennon stories, I'm always ears. I'd love to hear them. My stories are in a book called Memoir of a Roadie. It was the #1 new release on Amazon and Bios. It's sold 3 million copies now on Kindle. It is free on Kindle. So if you want to check it out, the link is below. Also, the link to the 3 episodes are below too. I urge you to give them a watch. Thanks a lot. See you on the next one.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe by clicking the round button on the bottom right. To learn more about me or the guests on the show, go to joelrody.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. The handle's Joel Rohde.